Welcome to this episode of the Whole Health of Rob Carney podcast. I am joined today by my good friend Christian Van Camp. He's been on the podcast before. If you have not checked out that episode, I will put the link in the description box as well. But if you're new to meeting Mr. Christian, he's a holistic lifestyle and performance coach, a biohacking hippie, and wellness enthusiast who is dedicated to helping men achieve a fit body and mind so they can create lasting impact in the world. He studied kinesiology, holistic performance, and graduating from the University of Arkansas with a bachelor's of science in nutrition. His primary inspiration was kindled from his little sister Nena's difficult health condition throughout her life, which led her to receive a heart transplant in March of 2014. His older sister Courtney, a Marine veteran, also struggled with addiction to opiates and heroin after being blown off of a 40-foot wall in Afghanistan. Without modern medicine tied with natural, ancient, holistic healing remedies, wholesome nutrition, and fitness, neither of them would be alive and thriving today. His overarching mission and purpose is to build equitable systems for all, focusing on clean air, water, soil, and food, while tapping back into the fundamentals of nature's healing. My brother Christian, great to have you back, my friend.
I'm so excited to dive into so many applicable things for people, Rob. Thanks for having me.
And then today we're going to be talking about men's health and testosterone. Last time we talked about holistic fitness and nutrition. So diving off that topic a little bit, but specific going to men's health and testosterone, because I think that's an area that we need now more than ever. There's a lot of great movements right now that are focusing on, women right now, which is really good because we need everybody to be at a similar plateau and have a lot of balances there. But I think in that process we've lost our focus on men specifically as well, in an era that I think we're trying to bring a lot of people together. We've also let some people fall off, and I think that men have been some of those people that in terms of their targeting of health hasn't been talked about specifically as individuals. So let's just kind of dive into what got you interested in men's health coaching and why you're here to talk about that today.
Yeah, it's primarily through just like my story itself. Being a man is a lot of the ebbs and flows through life, and having, a lot of not so holistic based habits, not things that were oriented towards my health and fitness. And, that's anything from eating, poor quality food, fast food, often growing up, not weightlifting, focusing on too much cardio through soccer and track and field. And not really tapping into the fundamentals of nature, as you kind of mentioned in that description about myself. Is I'm really big on let's reconnect to nature and utilize that to harness that masculine energy. And I think this constant trial and error throughout my life has led me into this passion in helping men myself, and tying in that masculine and feminine essence, that yin and yang we know of. And I think if we get too masculine, we get too aggressive, we get too in the work grind versus tapping into the peace and quiet. And, on the other hand, if we get too feminine as a man, well, we become that kind of new age hippie guy that isn't really in tune with what is really important, which is, weightlifting and direction and, that work life. We do need a balance between all of it. And so, through my experience, I've had a lot of ebbs and flows through it. So that's primarily inspired me to this men's health, which we'll be diving in today, and testosterone boosting tips and all that stuff.
I love it, man. And it was I remember back in college, I think it was my junior year, and I had a project. I've talked about this before on the podcast, that I was looking into testosterone boosting formulas, and that's what actually got me introduced to cold therapy. And so that was back in maybe 2014 or so. And so learning about that there's, like you said, going back to nature, that this is a primal source that our ancestors have been exposed to forever. You lived in the north, I'm of European descent, so my ancestors were dealing with a cold on a regular basis for me to be here right now. So part of that is recognize, like, hey, there are a lot of pieces of nature like the cold, like sauna, which I know you're a big fan of as well. Some of these natural sources, because that could be, somebody who is living in somewhere close to the equator. They're dealing with heat therapy all the time, or heat shock proteins, being fired off. So when it comes to testosterone, those are some of my favorites. I think of cold therapy. You mentioned weightlifting, but what are some of your favorite ways to help men boost testosterone?
Yeah, and just stemming right off of the cold and the heat, in this modern era, us ape-like men, we're constantly in this regulated 70 to cozy temperature, and not having this diversity and contrast in temperature and giving our body this fortitude of like, sweating heavily or shivering heavily. we become weak and frail, and we don't want to be weak and frail. We want to, have regulated testosterone and feel strong in our bodies and in our minds. So going off your question, man, I think diet is numero uno. I think it's one of my favorite ways to just optimize your masculine energy, your testosterone. Some of the things that can really, help with that testosterone. And actually, before I dive into that, the importance of testosterone in the first place, it's a chief male hormone, right? It's not like it's just important for, muscle mass. Like they say, oh, take testosterone to get your muscle up. This is important for regulating our fertility, our fat distribution, our red blood cells, our immunity. And so when we have a crappy diet, we have too much exposure to environmental toxins like BPA, we're getting disrupted sleep, we'll expect conditions like hypogonadism. We'll have small balls, and we don't want that. And so all jokes aside, it is extremely disheartening to have lower T. We don't want that. And, as men, if we have that capital T, we're going to feel good. And so the diet, man, number one thing to focus on is getting those healthy fats in and cutting out those vegetable oils. I know, Rob, you're big on, emphasizing those vegetable oils are toxic. There's funny posts on Instagram where it's like all the money's in the jar, where it's like telling people about vegetable oils when they don't want to hear it. And then the other jar was like, spending on something else. It's just funny looking at the comparison, because I fall apart of that all the time, really emphasizing cutting out these vegetable oils, canola, soybean, sunflower, highly processed, and it's really, if you look at the processing, go on YouTube, type in how is canola oil made, you never want to try it again. After watching that video, I was like, I'm not going to try this milled down seed into a gray paste, which then gets filtered with high heat and all these chemicals. It's wild. And so healthy fats, some of my favorites include grass-fed ghee, grass-fed butter, extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, avocado, lard, any of the tallow, animal fats. They're incredible for our health. And testosterone requires fats. It requires fats it's a precursor, right? It's a hormone. So hormones require fats. And so, sardines, eggs are a great source. Try to retain the yolk and not cook that up, because, when we cook the yolk, it actually breaks down a lot of the healthy nutrients in there and the healthy fats. So we want those omega-3s. And, unfortunately, the resource in the meat is very sketchy. So do your best to get pasture raised, get organic. Those are fundamentals as well, because meat carries that energy. If it's a sad animal, it's going to have sad DNA, and that DNA is going to be consumed by you. Well, you're going to feel that, and you will feel that over time. So grass-fed beef is great. I'm a big fan of organ meats, liver, kidney, heart. I have those about once a month. I cook up a pound of it and eat it up. You can also get supplemental form of this stuff, desiccated liver, heart, all that stuff. And like supports like. And so going back to nature, when it comes to, like, let's say beef testicle, it's actually incredible for your testicles and your prostate and those areas. When it comes to beef heart, it has a massive amounts of CoQ10. CoQ10, coenzyme 10 is amazing for your heart. So really cool looking at like supports like. So those are some of the essential fats, then, and high protein. That's really good. And when it comes to trace things along the carb spectrum, a lower carb approach will support testosterone as well. I'm really big on just going kind of cyclical keto, going keto primarily during the day. And then towards dinner time, I throw in, some sweet potatoes, some quinoa, some other great carb sources along those lines. And that helps me get a serotonin little boost, can support my sleep. And, going off of sleep, man, we can go down this rabbit hole too.
Before we dive into sleep, I want to just kind of touch on some of the nutrition stuff you're talking about, because you mentioned the like attracts like, the like benefits like. And so somebody may be hearing this. I'm sure somebody listening is saying, I don't know if I believe that. I didn't believe it either for a little bit. But then you start looking at the what nature does. Look at a walnut. It looks like a brain. Walnuts are usually good for your brain. What does a carrot look like? It looks like an eyeball. They're usually good for your eyeballs. So we can look at all these different similarities within nature. Nature gives us clues. If there's a God up there, he has a great sense of humor, because he really made it pretty simple when you look at what to benefit from. Eat something that either looks like that or came from that. So I just want to kind of throw that out there, because I know I was skeptical first when somebody said, oh, if you eat, bison balls is going to be good for your balls. And I was like, I don't know about that one, buddy. But the more I did the research, there's a lot of those studies that really add up. And again, just intuitively, when we look at other things that are not animal based, we look at the carrots over the walnuts and all these other things, we can see those prime examples that there's a lot of symbolism there. So I just want to throw that in there.
It's actually called the doctrine of signatures.
That's what it is. Yes.
Yeah. It took me forever to memorize that, but the
Right.
doctrine of signatures, look it up. It's so cool. Like what Rob said about the carrots, avocados are great for women. It looks like a baby. They're good for babies and fertility. And you got like the tomato you cut in half. It looks like a heart with all the chambers. There's so many things out there. It's wild, man.
It really is. And that's why I think nature is so cool. And, you and I obviously share a lot of values on that, of the bridge between the Western world and the Eastern world, and kind of finding the pieces that work from both is really what it comes down to, and balancing that with nature. You're a big proponent of barefoot walking, of sunshine, and all these other things we can get into, but I want to dive back to sleep, because that is arguably the most free, abundant medicine that we have available, that I think is one of the most underutilized ways to optimize our health and testosterone in and of itself. Because if we're not resting and recovering, we're probably not going to be producing testosterone. But I want to let you take that one away.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a guy out there listening to this right now and you're getting under 7 hours of sleep, but say you're consistently getting 5, and I do actually want to point out, it's not just a quantity of sleep that's important. We all know the quality is just as important. So I know a lot of people that sleep 7, 8, 6 hours a night, but they're getting that deep, restful REM, deep sleep every single night, and they're getting the right rhythms of sleep. So it's really complex. Sleep is so complex. And there's a book called Why We Sleep. I forgot who the artist is, or the author is. You can look it up. And it goes in depth on, like, really, he doesn't give the answer of why we sleep, but he gives like what is sleep. And so that can help you understand in your own, why do we sleep? Well, really, we do it to regenerate. That's how I like to look at it. It's like literally I just put in all this work today. My brain was working, all this stimuli, the light. My body needs a time to regenerate and break away from the day-to-day life. And so I believe if you sleep under 6 hours of sleep every night, compared to men who sleep 7 to 9 hours of sleep, you have 20% less testosterone. So let's say you want a level of 800, 900 testosterone, total testosterone, you would have around 600, 700 just from that poor sleep. It's so critical. Even outside of testosterone, every waking day, if you're waking up groggy, you're feeling kind of under the weather, you're having brain fog, it's not a good feeling. We don't want that. And that's the easiest thing you can address, is just pinpoint your sleep. It affects all holistic ways of life.
100%. I'm just amazed by the fact that I can have a killer workout, be so sore, and wake up and feel not sore the next day. Like, it's such a simple concept, but when it comes to sleep, I don't really recognize how much of a difference it makes until I get a poor night's sleep. And then I wake up and I'm still wicked sore the next day, or I feel that brain fog, I feel that grogginess, and it's like, it's a great reminder just of the importance of sleep. And we were talking about this before we started recording this. Sometimes we don't realize how good it feels to feel good until you don't feel good for a day. And we're recording this today after the Super Bowl. So, I was up late last night. I didn't get enough the proper sleep. I ate really late before bed, which wasn't ideal. So I didn't get the highest quality sleep. I didn't, get the most quantity of sleep either. And so I woken up today and kind of didn't feel great. And it's just a really great reminder that when you get regular good sleep, man, it is one of the best things in the world. And it just amazes me every single time at the amount of healing that our body does at a subconscious level. And just our brains are asleep, but our body is now in overdrive, doing all these things, like you said, to go into that recovery period. And so even from, just a general health perspective, every aspect of our life is going to be improved by improving the quality and quantity of our sleep. And that's something, like I was saying, it's the most free, abundant medicine out there. So we could go on a whole riff about ways to optimize sleep, between avoiding blue lights before bed or white lights before bed, kind of winding down, not eating a heavy meal before bed, like I did last night for the Super Bowl. And, not watching screens before bed, which I did for the Super Bowl. Again, all these little things that I don't commonly do, but just emphasizing the importance of the sleep. And really want to invite anybody listening right now to spend some time to do a little trial and error with your room. And I've done plenty of stuff talking about sleep before, get some blackout curtains, maybe turn off and get the TV out of the room. If you have a TV in your room, put your phone on airplane mode. We can talk about all these different things, but I want to throw a little sprinkle in there for anybody who is not familiar with some sleep hacks. And now we can return to the testosterone talk with Christian.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing how many ways you can go about optimizing it. If you guys have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Rob or I on Instagram, whatever works best. We're an open book. We love helping people out with this stuff, and there's natural ways to go about it. That's why we're talking about this stuff on this podcast today. Another thing that comes to mind, man, is sunshine. So we talked about nighttime, no sun. Let's talk about sunshine. Sunlight energy is quite healing for every human, but for men in general, there's a study that came out, real efficacious study, that men got their testosterone boosted by 120% by sitting in sunshine for 30 minutes, full sun, and their testosterone boosted by 120%. Just their chest exposed, though, just their chest exposed. Now, they expose their gonads, their balls, to the sun along with their chest, and went up 200% in a matter of 30 minutes. That's a lot. That's double, right? So, the sunshine is the best way to go. Let's say you're in an area right now where it's wintertime. Yeah, I feel you. It can be hard getting some sun. Well, there's great tech out there nowadays, and it's pretty close to it. And Rob, I know you got a red light therapy little gadget with you. I'm really big on that photo biomodulation. It is so powerful, guys, and there's so many different ones out there. They last for years. They won't really go bad, especially if you get a reputable brand. There's so many out there. I know Juve is a good one. There's some other ones out there you can look up. But
yeah, I've got BioLite, and that's a good one.
BioLite. Yep. Yeah. BioLite. Rob, I know. I think Rob's partnered with them too. So, there's so many out there, guys, and they can really support your testosterone, skin, your body exposure to that. Expose it on your full skin. If you think about it on our day-to-day lives, most of the time in our modern era, we're only getting sunlight on maybe our forearms, our hands, our face, a little bit of our neck. Other than that, literally we're wearing pants most of the time, socks, shoes, feet really aren't getting exposed, let alone our private parts, man. That's so important. I know it sounds all woo-woo, guys. Some of you guys might be thinking like, oh, that's crazy talk, but yeah, it's hippie mode that's turned into a revolutionary scientific truth. And so I'm big on that stuff. So sunlight's a big one, man.
Yeah. And, to your point, I remember Rob Earth, who's a, good friend and mentor or both of ours. And he was talking about, sun in your butthole. And I remember there's a lot of me being like, all right, dude, like, again, just the instant skeptic comes up, which a lot of times when we're exposed to something new, and I consider myself to be pretty open-minded, I was like, there's no freaking way that this is, one, good, two, effective, and three, like, I should even try that. However,
have you tried it, Rob? I've tried it.
I've tried it many times. It's really nice. I'll tell you.
It's really nice, man. It's warm. Like, we don't feel that.
So, it's something too. It's like, and you can get both your balls in your butt at the same time. So,
exactly.
For me, it's just a matter of, like I said, be your own guinea pig. And I wouldn't suggest doing that in Central Park of New York or somewhere where there's a lot of people around. Maybe if you got a secluded backyard, that's a good idea. But or inside. Sometimes you can find a nice sunny window that's coming in and get it that way too. So, however,
dude, you know what I just found out about the window though? I did some research on this, and it sucks because it blocks, I believe UVA, but it lets UVB go through, and that can lead to burning of the skin, and you don't get the beneficial UVA. So, yeah, you'll still get quality sunlight. It's good for your eyes. It can be good to your health. But I was like, damn, dude, I heard about that because I used to tan, like naked in my living room with this. I did some research, and my buddy pointed that out at one point. And I'm just like, damn, that's too bad. But you still get a benefit from it. Don't feel weary about it. Just wanted to point that out.
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll have the windows open. So open up so it is just like a blank window. And that's a nice way to do it. Like pull the screens up. And again, tougher in the winter, pull the glass panels up. Yeah, exactly. But anyway, sunlight, like you said, that's something that I really recognize in the winter, just how essential that is. And we're recording this in the middle of February right now. And we just had our first like over 50-degree days in like 3 months. And so being out there in the sun, I felt so much better on so many levels, energetically, mentally, emotionally. My whole system was rebooted by the sun. And I'm very in tune with that in the summertime when I'm outside, going to the garden and just sitting outside. Like a lot of times I'll work outside because I work from my phone and just sit in like a lounge chair, just working from my phone in the sun, just my shorts on and I'm not in the place where I can go naked yet. I got neighbors and stuff, but but my point is that in the wintertime, it's easy to be disconnected from that. And we see a lot of seasonal depression. And I attribute so much of that is just the lack of sunlight. There's a lot of other factors associated with that. But for me, I recognize that I'm going to be moving somewhere warmer within the next year or so that I can have access to more sunshine. Because to me, the sunshine is that important that it is worth moving somewhere that I can get access to more of it. So, there's a lot of benefits to sunshine, my man.
Yeah. And, one thing you could do is a double whammy here is, lifting heavy weights while you're in the sun, especially like during summertime,
Yes,
in
love it.
spring. Weightlifting, guys. I mean, it can get uncomfortable getting started into weightlifting if you haven't done it before. I've been there, trust me. Like right out of high school, that's when I started delving into that after, running track and field, playing soccer, doing a lot of the conditioning stuff, and I wasn't getting any sort of muscle stimulation, and I think tapping into that is really just it's a manhood thing. It really is. It feels good just to pick up heavy things. We're designed for that. Women, yeah, totally full respect. I want women to work out too and lift heavy weights. Absolutely. But there's something special about us already having that ingrained in our biology, that we have that extra testosterone. It's like a calling to tap into that essence. Just think about some of the Greek guys that were always just lifting heavy stuff in the warrior era and just ancient times, and they would swing these massive 30-40 pound swords to practice and swing them overhead. And that reminds me of just like what's available at our fingertips with a lot of like
Right.
on it different
Oh,
weights.
yeah.
I know you're big on what is it?
Maces, steel maces and clubs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I'll tell you, it's something that I think is very interesting. I've done a lot of research on the topic of the differences between men and women, and because obviously, like I was saying in the beginning, we're at a time right now where we're trying to make everybody the same to some degree. Not everybody's doing that, but kind of the mainstream narrative to some degree is trying to equalize everybody. Which equality is good, but we also want to recognize we are very different human beings. And I remember one research basically we're basically different species. Like we're that different that we're almost different species. And
Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, man. Do you know that book? Have you heard about
I've
it's an
heard the
old
book, but I
book.
haven't read it.
It's
Yeah.
from the 50s. It says it right there. Men
Yep.
are from Mars, women are from Venus. It's kind of a joke, of course, but it's true. We're very
Right.
different.
And we have beautiful differences. And that's why we have gotten this far as a human species, because we have these diverse, differences between us, which is absolutely wonderful and beautiful. And I remember reading one thing that was saying that men are typically way better at focusing on one task and doing that one task, where women are way better at multitasking. And part of that is you think of, traditionally, if men were going out hunting, like you're saying, we're probably carrying heavy shit, using heavy weapons, carrying whatever. We're focused on one task, and that is hunting. Or we're focused on one task, and that is fighting. We're not fighting and thinking about, oh, what if the cows need to be taken out? Or we're focusing on the one task, which is taking care of the animals.
Mhm.
Whereas the women were kind of in a place where they were cooking, they were cleaning, they were taking care of the kids. They were doing a lot of things that they developed, or maybe they're more naturally inclined, I think is the argument, to be able to manage multiple things at once.
Mm.
So men typically are better at narrowly focus something. And so that's where, I think there's this, if we can recognize it, if we go back to our biology and kind of go into our primal instincts, like you're saying, we have this extra testosterone so that we can do work. We can lift heavy things. We can do difficult tasks. And that's not to say women can't or shouldn't do those things, but we have a natural advantage to some degree to be able to do those tasks better. And again, that's not saying that one of us is better than the other. That's just the reality of our biology.
That's true, man. That's a trigger moment for most people that
It
are
is.
really, it's the sensitivity is a problem too. And I think even for us men, we need to stop being so sensitive and just literally just tap into that masculine energy. It's just like brush it off, understand it is what it is, and move forward and become better than yesterday. And going off to the lifting heavy shit, man, leg day is the most potential T boosting workout. Is like doing a leg day, and squats and deadlifts. They're so potent at boosting your T. There's a lot of research on that. They're big foundational muscles in our body, our quads, our hamstrings, all the internal ones. It's really powerful. So tapping into leg day, if you can do that, man, that'll help tremendously.
And even just from a men's health perspective, I can say I feel way more confident, way happier, healthier, stronger when I am lifting weights. And I think that again, there's a great deal of people that don't exercise nowadays because we don't have to in our daily life. Again, coming back to our primal roots, we were exercising just by living, only less than 100 years ago, where now we can be sedentary, work on a computer all day, and we don't have to be physically strong. But just because we don't have to be physically strong to survive doesn't mean that there isn't a reason to do that anyway, and actively seek that discomfort, actively seek that growth, push that comfort zone. And so, I want to dive real quick into the topic of somebody getting started with weightlifting. Because, like you said, it can be intimidating if you've never done it before. Maybe it feels a little confusing, don't know where to start. In my case, I injured myself because I was just teaching myself off of YouTube, which is a great resource, but maybe I didn't have somebody to actually look at my posture, and I developed a lot of slowly developing bad habits of my posture while I was lifting over time. So, where do you recommend people start?
Yeah, that's so important, Rob, is establishing like it's hard to understand what is an optimal posture if you aren't really well versed in that area. So go to someone who's a specialist in that. A good friend of mine, Nick, he's an Egoscue guy. Egoscue is really cool. Egoscue. You can look that up online. They're all big on alignment and posture. Reading books on it. The Align Method I'm reading right now by Aaron Alexander, that will give you a foundation on it. Start with like just getting the knowledge and the background on that, then start applying it as you're getting the knowledge. That's what I'd recommend to start, whether it's through podcasts, it's books, it's investing in a program by a coach, whatever it may be. I think that's so critical and foundational is getting that posture in alignment before you start putting weights on and therefore causing more debilitation down the road because you're not aligned. So you'll start seeing more pains erupt. You'll feel your joints hurting. You'll just start feeling tension in your body because certain muscles are pulling versus certain muscles being weak. And so, most men would do well with just working on their hips. Just from my experience working with men too, is lateral movements. So that would be side to side, not just forward and back. So working in different planes, the transverse plane, you can do rotational things that will really get that hip opened up because we tend to be so upper body dominant and we want to work the chest because we see that chest. We want to work the shoulders and we forget about the posterior as well. So I'm a big emphasis on let's just prioritize the posterior. This could be through Nordic curls, working your hamstrings. This could be hamstring, working your hamstrings and posterior through deadlifts, getting the deadlifts down, starting light, working your way up. And if you're just beginning with all this stuff, the best thing you can do, and you're very confused even from studying and research things, just hire someone, whether it's in person, online, that can support you with this. It asking for help doesn't make you weak. It shows courage and strength in many ways. And I myself have invested in a lot of different mentors in the past, and it's helped tremendously. So you can just get that ease of mind and like, shit, I have this down now. I don't have to worry about all the research and such. And so, yeah, going from that, get some books. If you need some resources, Rob and I are well versed, and we have a lot of connections in the health field, and we can support you on that as well.
Yeah, brother. And I think it comes down to keeping it simple too, is that a lot of people like to jump into very complex workout plans. But if you've never done a workout plan before, you don't want to be doing 5 days a week, 6 days a week. I always recommend let's start off with like 2 or 3 days a week. Then we get that part down, then we maybe add another day, because it's just like anything. If you overwhelm the system's not ready to take that load. So easing into it is kind of the last piece I want to leave with people on that is it's not a race. It's look at it as a marathon. As after my small tear in my back in 2018, I basically took a year and a half of doing the lightest weights ever, that my ego was humiliated by going to the gym and doing the weights I was, but had to get that mobility back, had to get that functionality back. And I had a lot of imbalances because, when you have one side that's not being used for, 6 months, really, you develop some imbalances. So sometimes you got to put that ego aside and say, hey, I'm going to start where I'm at, use what I have, and get myself ready. And now, here I am coming up on, 3.5 years later. This is the best I've ever felt physically. And that was because I took a year and a half, almost 2 years actually, of just developing that base down and not rushing back into it. Even though my mind wanted to do more, my ego wanted to do more, take the slow approach, because, it's definitely worth it to avoid injuries.
That's it, man. You want to avoid injuries, you want to avoid misalignments, drop the weight and just do a super slow movements. And That could be bench pressing, taking 2 to 3 seconds pushing, and then letting it go back to your chest for 4 seconds. You're going to avoid injury doing that. You're actually going to build more muscle, scientifically proven, doing that, because there's more time under tension, it's called. So, there's a lot of benefits to slow moving, focusing on, correct functionality of the movement. Full range of motion is awesome too. So you don't just develop all these if you're benching, try to get it down to the chest versus cutting it 6 inches above the chest. Or if you're squatting, throw in some deep full range squats here and there. I think those are all just helpful things just if you are beginning. So I appreciate you mentioned that too, Rob.
Yeah, brother. And I want to just have you share any other tips you feel like people can benefit from for overall men's health or boosting testosterone.
Yeah. I think just complete this awesome podcast is just focused on the foundations, guys. Don't overwhelm yourself. Nutrition, we talked about, we addressed some basics for that. Sleep, right? Focus on sleep, nutrition, and movement. And then throw in what you can do to connect to nature more: sunshine, breathing outside, breath work, cold therapy, hot therapy. All these things are very simple to do, but don't bombard your plate. Start small. Let's say you're just like, man, my first thing that comes to mind is my diet's really been struggling lately. Well, start with that. Do it for a month, do it for 2 months, do it for 3 months. Don't worry about the workouts. Don't worry about all the other stuff. And then that will directly start helping your sleep. You'll start feeling more energy. So then you may want to hit up the gym. You'll start feeling more cognizant of day-to-day actions. So you're like, oh, I'm going to go on a walk today versus sitting down and scrolling. So, everything's connected. If one system's changed, everything else will be improved. So that's probably my biggest takeaway right there.
Love it, man. The last thing I would leave people with as well on this topic is I think it starts with having a purpose. We need to have a clear vision of what we're working towards. Like we're saying, if we're designed to work, better be working towards something worthwhile, or else we're just kind of like a little sailboat that's not in control of its sail. So I'd say, in my personal experience, when I have my why, I have my purpose very clear, it makes going to the gym enjoyable because I'm working towards something. It's not like I'm running away from something. It's not like, or I'm just doing it because I'm just doing it. When I go to the gym, I recognize, hey, this is going to make me better. This is going to help me get closer to my goals because I will be healthier. I will be able to do more work. I will be able to be more confident, speak my mind better, have more testosterone. All the list of benefits from exercise go on, because there's always going to be an excuse coming in the way. There's always going to be a barrier, always going to be an obstacle. And when we're clear with that purpose, it allows us to find a way through, above, around, under. We're going to get to the other side of the obstacle, but it stems from having that purpose. And then we implement all these practices we've been talking about with the sleep, the nutrition, the exercise, the thinking, the breathing, all these different things that are going to make a big difference. We go on lots of rabbit holes on all those topics. But if we have the purpose clear and we do all these things that we've been talking about, we're going to be a healthier, happier, more sustainable individual at the end of the day. So if you're not following Christian already, I really encourage you to do so. He gives a lot of great value. And Christian, where's the best place for people to find you?
Yeah. And that last little bit, I love that, man. It all starts in the mindset, and then from there on, everything can change in your life. You could reach me at cvcwellness.com. So it's like Christian Van Camp, cvcwellness.com. Or you can just connect with me on Instagram at CVC Wellness. So those are some 2 foundational places I'm active on.
Love it, brother. And for everybody listening, Christian also does work with some great companies. One of them is my favorite as well, which is Purium Health Products. So when you go to Purium Health Products, if you've never used it before, you can go there, use the discount code CVC Wellness, and that will save you $50 off your first order, or 25%, whatever saves you more. We got a lot of great stuff that will help with that nutrition aspect. And as you maybe heard me talk about before, is that convenience is a big part when it comes to changing a diet, because at the end of the day, a lot of people are used to a fast food diet. They're used to microwave meals. And sometimes the best thing we do to transition is give somebody a convenient option. That's one thing I really love about Purium with like the power shake is you mix it with water. You have high quality grains, you mix it with water. It doesn't get much more simple than that. So it's a great way to get high quality nutrition. They have the beet juice, the Can't Beat This, which is really great for a natural pre-workout as well. A lot of great stuff in there, but I think the convenience, the organic, the non-GMO, the fact they're going plastic free, there's so many benefits we can glean from Purium. And I know it's changed my life. It's really benefited yours as well. So if you're listening to this, you want to try that out, get some quality nutrition, go to ishoppurium.com, use the discount code CVC Wellness. I will put that link in the description box as well. If you enjoyed this podcast, please do share with a friend. This will help to get this message of men's health and testosterone out there, because we need men to be healthier now more than ever, so we can continue to move the earth in the direction we want it to be, moving in a healthy, happy, sustainable way. So I appreciate you listening. Share this with a friend. Christian, I appreciate you being here, my friend.
Thank you, brother. It was a blast.
All right, everybody. Have the best day ever. We'll see you soon.